Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Today we've got a early impression of a very expensive niche fragrance, and it is from the Spirit of Dubai Discovery set that I've been slowly working my way through. And this fragrance is called Rimal, M-R-I-M-A-L, Rimal. Interesting name. I will read you the little blurb that Spirit of Dubai puts out, because each one of their samples is a scroll. So let's open up the scroll, shall we? And I will read the little blurb that comes inside of it for you guys' viewing pleasure. So there's the Rimal scroll, and it says, "We treaded the soft desert sand, our feet sinking into its warmth and softness, as the wind lifted up our spirits. Over here, the air itself seemed to shimmer. At the touch, the magic dust, the sands of the dunes, it sparkled. But the veil of shimmer was kind, letting escape the breeze that beckoned us. This is Dubai Rimal," she explained. But I said nothing as I succumbed to the magic. There's a certain magic that prevails in the dunes. You can sense it in the air. The warm notes of saffron, cinnamon, incense, leather, labdanum, and agarwood overwhelm you, and the floral notes of rose and ylang-ylang entice you. They really need to get somebody to help them with their writing. It doesn't translate so well to English, but beautiful presentation. I love the whole scroll idea. I didn't even know it was a scroll at first, actually. Someone had to tell me. So they need to make that a little bit more public, but I love the whole scroll idea. And let me put this back together. Otherwise, I'll never find this little piece that goes back on. Okay, here we go. So I'm going to grab a couple bottles because there's a few that I want to talk about in comparison to this video. And the first one is this, and the second one is this. Okay, so now we can kind of talk about these, and I can reference these bottles. So let's talk about Rimal. Let me read you the notes, and then I'll give you kind of the breakdown. Remember, this is an early impression. It's 100 degrees in Texas, which is the complete wrong weather to wear this, by the way. This is definitely a autumn and winter fragrance by far, hands down. But let me read you the notes. It is air conditioned in here, so it's not like I'm wearing it out in the heat. It's 70 degrees in my house. But I can tell this fragrance is not made for July in Texas. This is a Thanksgiving, Christmas type fragrance. We'll talk about that later. Let's talk about the notes. So top notes: vanilla, fruity notes, white flowers, saffron, cinnamon, nutmeg. Middle notes: patchouli, styrax, sweet notes, incense, rose, ylang-ylang. Base notes of caramel, leather, amber, vetiver, cistus labdanum, sandalwood, musk, and agarwood. Okay, so I've got a 7-hour dry down right here on my left hand, and I just did a fresh spray. I don't know if you can see the shimmer still on my hand before I started the video. So I just did a fresh spray probably within the last 15 minutes or so. And let me tell you what you first get. So when you first spray this fragrance, you're going to be greeted with this rubbery oud accord. Okay, it comes from the very beginning. You're hit with a little bit of this rubbery oud. And I actually like that. However, my brain instantly goes back to the oud note that Spirit of Dubai is pushing their own oud fragrance, which is this. This is the one that I actually started with. This is their oud. And the reason I started with their oud fragrance is I wanted to get a feel for the type of oud they were using. I wrongly assumed they would be using the same oud in the oud fragrance that they put out as the rest of the line. This would just be the oud. It's not. So the oud fragrance that they offer is probably my favorite from the entire collection so far that I've smelled. I haven't smelled them all. I still have, I think, 3 more to go in this Discovery sample set. Um, the oud here is a little reminiscent of the night. It has its own vinegary facets that will remind you of other fragrances like Serge Lutens, La Couche du Diable, for example, has a little bit of that vinegariness with their oud. But in and of itself, this is the best Spirit of Dubai fragrance so far. It's also the most expensive. It's $1,100 for 100 ml, whereas this Rimal that we're talking about today, Rimal is only $425 for 100 ml. So you can instantly see there's a drop in price. There's also a drop in quality of the oud. That disappointed me on the other fragrances, and it disappointed me on Rimal. That is something I wish they fixed. And maybe they did fix it with their second collection. This is all the first collection, by the way. This whole thing is only the first collection. So the second collection is even more extravagant and more expensive. So these are the cheap Spirit of Dubai fragrances. 425 ml dollars for 100 ml, and $275 for 50 ml is basically what you're up against. So you can see the instant drop versus $1,100 for 100 ml of the oud. And so you're hit with the oud, but it's not the high-end, expensive smelling oud. It seems like a lower quality, cheaper, maybe even synthetic. Maybe they've, if they're using real oud, maybe it's only a smaller amount and they're complementing it with synthetic notes. I don't know. But it doesn't smell as high quality as the oud itself. That's the most expensive smelling fragrance, the oud fragrance. So it starts off rubbery with the oud, and then you're instantly hit with lots of sweetness. And if you know me, you're probably going, uh-oh, he's not going to like this fragrance. And I am on the fence on this fragrance. I'm torn because I have a little bit of an angel and a devil situation going on. On the one hand, the angel sitting on this shoulder is telling me the reasons why I should like it. It has the leather, it has the incense, it has the labdanum, it has the oud, right? And on the other side of my shoulder is the devil going, but it's sweet, it's vanilla, it's syrupy. It smells a little bit like Parfums de Marly Herod. I'll talk a little bit about that some more later on. But if you know this fragrance, if you know the DNA of Herod, right? There's no tobacco in Rimal, but if you know the DNA of Herod, that gets you an idea. That puts you in the ballpark of what you're up against. It's very cinnamony, it's very warm. Warm is probably the word. I did make notes. Let me follow the notes because I made notes. So the incense will instantly come to the forefront. You can smell a little bit of the incense wafting in the background, which is beautiful, okay? The leather, also, you can make out the leather, although it's almost like it's being hidden by the sweet, syrupy, cinnamony, vanilla, type notes. Caramel also comes and joins the party. And there are other sweet notes, but really, once that rubbery oud opening starts to go away, and it's pretty quick, you spray, you get it, and it starts to dissipate immediately. And then I think they use the oud more as a, like a base note in this fragrance going forward. Excuse me one moment. Okay, so for those of you that don't know, I am getting over COVID. It's been about a month, but even with the, even with taking Mucinex all the time and all that stuff, I'm still a little bit congested. So I'm trying not to sniffle into the microphone, as some people have complained my sniffling was bothering them. But it's just side effects of being sick and COVID and kind of getting over it. So, okay, so let's get back to the way that this smells. So I mentioned you get the rubbery oud, you get the sweet notes, the caramel comes to play, you get a little bit of that. But what it really smells like, unfortunately to me, is imagine if you took which most people are going to be able to they're going to be able to associate with this example. So imagine if you opened up one of those Betty Crocker jar cans, or jars of whipped cream, and it's the white whipped cream, and you took the Betty Crocker jar of just white frosting, right? You know what I'm talking about? Just basic Betty Crocker white frosting, and you just lather it on a cinnamon bun, okay? Just lather the white frosting on top. That's the level of sweetness that's in this fragrance. And you would think I would hate this fragrance because of that, because I don't like sweet fragrances in general. And there is a little bit of that going on. There's a little bit of hate for this fragrance because of the sweetness in my mind, but also underneath it all, I can sense there actually are good ingredients. There's, like I said, the incense, the leather, all that stuff is the angel side of thing. This is an angel and a devil, and they're in my head kind of fighting it out. I will tell you right now, the sweetness is so much that even though I want to like this fragrance, I don't think I could ever buy a full bottle. But the fact that a fragrance this sweet at least has made me go, you know what? I don't necessarily hate it, because most sweet fragrances I hate, I despise, is a little bit of a accomplishment for Spirit of Dubai. So, there's a little bit, I mentioned some fragrances that it's somewhat similar to. There's a little bit of Herod in this fragrance. If you know Herod, you know that it's all about the tobacco, osmanthus, cinnamon. It's a little bit like Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille with its own kind of twist, if you will. Imagine if you took Herod with everything that it involves, which is pepperwood, cinnamon, vanilla, but you took the DNA of Herod and you removed the tobacco and you removed the osmanthus, okay? Two main ingredients in Herod. And you made it more of a Middle Eastern vibe. You amped up the saffron, you added the oud, you did that. That is what Rimal reminds me of. That is the closest representation that I can give you to what Rimal smells like. So if it was, Thanksgiving, right? Or if it was Christmas, or, that time of year, the holiday time of year, and you want to drink, eggnog and sit by the fire and stuff like that, this fragrance actually would be relatively nice. For someone who doesn't have a hatred of sweet fragrances like I do, I could see you really liking and enjoying this fragrance. The other fragrance that it reminds me of a little bit is this, Burberry's London. This might actually be even closer of a comparison than Herod, because Burberry London has this very sweet port wine accord, right? And it also has this synthetic designer quality about it, which unfortunately this does have. The ingredients smell good, but it doesn't smell like a high-end, expensive niche fragrance to me. It doesn't smell like something I would spend $425 on. I know I wouldn't spend $425 on. Even if I could get a bottle for $100, would I want it? Would I wear it? Because my collection is starting to get to the point where I only want to add things that I really know I want to wear and love and enjoy, and they're special. And while I have enjoyed wearing this today, and I think I'm going to save the rest of my decant for cold weather and try it in the cold just to see what I think of it. They're talking about, in the little blurb that I read, they said sand dunes and this, that, or whatever. This doesn't remind me of sand dunes at all. This reminds me of the opposite of sand dunes. This reminds me of Santa Claus, of Christmas, of, pineapple upside down cake and sitting by the fire with hot chocolate. That's what Rimal reminds me of, because it has the same DNA as something like Burberry's London, which, by the way, Burberry's London also uses a tobacco note. So it's interesting that both of the fragrances that popped in my mind as a potential comparison use the note of tobacco. But Burberry's London has leather, it has cinnamon leaf, and it has this port wine note, which is missing in the Rimal. So imagine if you took Burberry's London and you replaced the tobacco and port wine with the oud. Okay, the oud has taken the tobacco's place, and they've also added a little bit of incense and stuff like that to make it more Middle Eastern. That's the magic of this fragrance, if you will. Now, the last point that I would like to make is they mentioned a couple of the florals. So they mentioned the rose and the ylang-ylang, but also in the top, there is a white floral note, and they don't necessarily say which white floor, it just says white flowers. And you do get this white flower note in the opening that is missing from fragrances like London. It's missing from fragrances like Herod, okay? And because of that, this fragrance is maybe the most traditionally feminine of the bunch, right? So if you care about something like that, maybe stick with Burberry London or Herod. But if you don't care whether there is a little bit of a traditional feminine leaning aspect to this fragrance, there's nothing wrong with the white florals. It doesn't overwhelm the scent, but you can tell that they're there. The florals play a role in this fragrance. But, you know, I did a floral video yesterday where I included some of my favorite floral fragrances, if you will, that, you know, use floral notes. And I wouldn't include this in the bunch because the florals are not done well enough to be included in a video like that. This is more about the styrax, the incense, the cinnamon, you know, that kind of thing. The vanilla, that's what this is more about. Tobacco Vanille. Tom Ford's Tobacco Vanille is the third fragrance that kind of popped into my head when I was thinking about comparisons, and I don't have a full bottle of that. I have a decant, and, you know, that's another one that I usually reach for around Thanksgiving, holidays. You know, it gives that vibe, and that's another one with tobacco. So there's really not, you know, there's not another fragrance that I can think of that this smells like that doesn't use the note of tobacco. So in that sense, I guess you can say Spirit of Dubai created something that maybe is a little bit original. But on the other hand, do you want to pay $425 for someone to just maybe in passing think you smell like Tobacco Vanille? Or can you even get joy out of a fragrance that just smells pretty much like these three fragrances we've talked about, but with a Middle Eastern twist? Is that worth that kind of money to you? For me, no. If I was going to drop any money on Spirit of Dubai so far, without a doubt, hands down, it would be on their oud. Because their oud fragrance is very similar to wearing something like Frederic Mall's The Night. You know, those kind of real oud fragrances that are expensive and, you know, use real oud. That's what this feels like. It's the most expensive for a reason. Obviously, the oud is an expensive ingredient, but that's the one that I am most taken with. Now, it is animalic, it's dirty, it smells a little bit like fertilizer and vinegar and all the stuff you think of when you know, think of real animalic oud fragrances. It's here. But for me, these cheaper fragrances, the ones that I've tested so far, the other ones I tried was Maydon, the leather one. Wasn't impressed. I thought I was going to love it because I love the note of leather. But I was not impressed with Maydon. I still have another wearing left in it. But for me, it didn't do what I expected it to do for the money. But again, it was a lower price point, if you will, compared to the oud fragrance. And then I also talked about Fakama, the rose one, And Fahama is, you know, it was nice. I enjoyed it. But that's another one that was just too sweet for me. You know, the use of sweet notes is a little surprising for a brand with this kind of price point. You know, you don't run into the sweetness problem with a lot of these really high-end brands. You run into it more with stuff like this. Designers, you know, designers do a lot of sweet stuff. So maybe it's because they're a new brand. Maybe they were trying to be more mass appealing. Maybe that's what the people in the Middle East like. I don't know. But I've run across a couple of them now where that sweetness really comes through and it's bothering me. Or the syntheticness of Maidan came through and I said, no way would I spend this kind of money on a leather fragrance when I have Bel Ami, Pure Distance M, Fetish, all the ones that I love, that kind of thing. Leonard Porome. There's just no way I would spend that kind of money on Maidan. So the brand is mostly misses, with the oud being the only hit. But even then, I have a decant of the night. I own multiple Bortnikovs. I have a full bottle of an Arise Ladori fragrance on the way. Why would I want to spend $1,100 on their oud? You know, so the brand has a problem. They're trying to compete in a category of pricing, elite pricing. That is elite pricing, no matter how you phrase it. $425 to $1,100 is elite pricing. And, you know, they're trying to compete in this category, and they're not putting forward the goods to back the pricing, in my opinion. But that's why I want to do these early impression videos, so I can tell you guys that. Because on one hand, I like this fragrance, and if I had a bottle, would I wear it once a year around Thanksgiving? Sure, it would compete with Tobacco Vanille. It would compete with Burberry London. Would I get more pleasure out of wearing this than Burberry London? Probably not. I mean, to me, you know, I'm comparing it to what used to be a $25 designer. Now it's a little bit more expensive. But in the old days, Burberry London was a cheapie. And, you know, when you're comparing a elite pricing niche fragrance to a cheapie, and in your head you're going, I don't really care which one I wear. I would get just as much joy out of this. That's a problem. You know, $425 for 100 ml. This thing should blow you away. You should be absolutely amazed, and I'm not. I like it, but again, some of the stuff that I mentioned, just the downfalls don't overcome the pros. So, Angel, Devil, the Devil wins in this case. I would not get a full bottle of Rimal, which is turning into a, you know, it's turning into a trend with this brand. Like I said, the oud is the only one that I you know, if I found an amazing deal, would I love the oud fragrance? Sure. But maybe their second collection just does things better than the first collection. I don't know. But I'm still so glad to try these. So thank you to my top secret perfume fairy godfather / mother who sent these to me. It's been a joy and a blessing to get to try them and to get to do this content for you guys. And my nose is starting to get back to a point after COVID where I'm starting to trust it enough to do these first impression videos again. So, I hope you enjoyed this. If you have experience with Rimal, let me know what you think in the comments, or with this brand in general. Let me know what you think in the comments. You know, these high-end niche brands are starting to pop up everywhere, and many of them just don't have the value proposition to be worth it, in my opinion. But, you know, that's why you have to go in with a open mind, a clear slate, and you have to give it a fair chance. And that's what I try and do with these videos. I wear it as my scent of the day. And even though this would fit much better in, you know, the colder weather, you don't know that until you actually wear it. So, let me know what you think. A like, a subscription, and comments always help the channel. Plus, I love interacting with you guys. I love seeing your faces in the comments. And, hopefully I'll see you again tomorrow with another video. I am in the office tomorrow, so it may be an off day. But hopefully, worst case, I'll see you guys on Thursday with another video. So cheers. Thanks for watching. See you then. Bye now.